I'm Harrison Tocox, member of the Q Wake Up crew.
I'm Patra Jones, a member of the Q Wake Up crew on QMix 107.3. We're very excited to be a part of Columbus Pride this year, even if it is virtual. Okay, we're getting started with our virtual program with Cindy Fry, president of the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, I'm Cindy Fry. I'm president of the Columbus Area Chamber of Commerce, an organization that has 550 business members that employ 29,000 individuals around the region. And it's our objective to make sure that we live in a community where businesses grow and the community can thrive. I certainly wish I were there live with you again today. Instead of doing this virtually, the Pride Festival is a joyful reminder that our diversity is one of our strengths as a community. And I wish we were there together side by side, hearing the music, enjoying the fun, seeing old friends in such a happy, colorful, musical, positive environment. So this will have to do. I'm going to tell you a story about a visit I had last year from one of the customers that we serve here at the Chamber, where we're a one-stop shop for people who want to start a business or grow a business. A woman came to my office door and asked me to follow her. And I did. She took me to the front door of the Chamber where we have a sticker. It says LGBT safe. And she said, "This is great, and I want to thank you because this makes me feel welcome here. This makes me feel safe here." And it took me back to the time in 2014 when a group came together to work on the LGBT Safe project. The result was stickers that were put on store windows and a website with a directory. Back in 2014, what I learned working with this team of people out of what began as a Six Sigma project was that we had many in our community who didn't know if they would be safe in a restaurant, at one of the local watering holes, in a retail shop, even in a doctor's office. We heard some very upsetting stories, and we saw some data from surveys that said this was a real problem. So with a team of residents from the area that included Cummins employees, members of clergy, small business owners, members of the Pride Alliance, and the Chamber, we put these tools together. And shortly thereafter, the project started. We went through some difficult times as a state, but we went through some joyful times too. In 2015, the US Supreme Court affirmed that same-sex couples could marry in all 50 states. The state of Indiana went through its own turmoil with the RFRA Act. And one of the great moments of that was seeing 9 employers, some of the biggest companies in the state, send their CEOs to the State House to say this isn't right. And we closed out that year with the state of the Columbus City Council agreeing to add to its list of protected persons those that you could not discriminate based on sexual identity or gender identity. And that was a huge step for our community and for our city council to add that to the human rights ordinance. So a very tumultuous time, but so much has happened since then. And we've come a long way, and landmark decisions can continue to support the rights of LGBT people. I think for me, it's just really important that we live in a community that welcomes all people, that works for all people. It's the kind of community I want to live in. It's the kind of community I want to work in. And it's the kind of community I want to promote and tell other people about. So on this day of of celebration when we can't be together, I just say to you, thank you for all that you do on behalf of the LGBT community, on behalf of Columbus, and let's hope that this time next year we can be together. Thank you.
The Tiptonians, cover band representing 4 continents, brought together in Columbus, Indiana, performing cover of Stuck With You by Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber, and performing cover of The Middle by Jimmy Eat World.
Hi Columbus Pride, we are Tiptonians. Thank you so much for having us. We are sad that we can't all be together in person, but we hope that these songs will make you feel the love and help you celebrate even though we're apart.
I'm not wanna stick around. One strike and you're out, baby. Don't care if I sound crazy, but you never let me down. No, that's why when the sun's up, I'm staying. Still laying in your bed singing. Oh. Got all this time on my hands. Might as well cancel our plans. Yeah, I could stay here for a lifetime. So lock the door and throw out the key. Can't fight this no more. It's just you and me, and there's nothing I can do. I'm stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. So go ahead and drive me insane, baby. Run your mouth. I still wouldn't change being stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. I'm stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you, baby.
There's nowhere we need to be. No. I'ma get to know you better. Gonna hold me here forever. There's nobody on these streets. If you told me that the world was ending, ain't no other way that I could spend it. Oh. Got all this time on my hands. Might as well cancel our plans. I can stay here forever. So lock the door and throw out the key. Can't find this no more. It's just you and me, and there's nothing I can do. I'm stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. So go ahead and drive me insane, baby. Run your mouth. I still wouldn't take being stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. I'm stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. Then whoa, baby, come take all my time.
Go on, make me lose my mind.
We got all that we need here tonight.
I lock the door and throw out the key. Can't fight this no more. It's just you and me, and there's nothing I'd rather do. I'm stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. And go ahead and drive me insane, baby. Run your mouth. I still wouldn't change all this loving you, hating you, wanting you. I'm stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you. Stuck with you, stuck with you, stuck with you.
Hey, don't write yourself off yet. It's only in your head you feel left out or looked down on. Just try your best, try everything you can, and don't you worry what they tell themselves when you're away. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright, alright. Hey, you know they're all the same. You know you're doing better on your own, so don't buy it. Just look right now, just be yourself. It doesn't matter if it's good enough for someone else. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright, alright. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright, alright. Get it, Tiago! Hey, don't write yourself off yet. It's only in your head you feel left out or looked down on. Just do your best, do everything you can, and don't you worry what the bitter hearts are gonna say. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright, alright. It just takes some time, little girl, you're in the middle of the ride. Everything will be just fine. Everything will be alright.
Tanya Girardi, Reverend Tanya Girardi with North Christian Church of Columbus. As a lesbian woman in ministry, she tells some of her story and why she supports Columbus Pride.
Hi, my name is Tanya Girardi. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the pastor at North Christian Church. That's right, this church. We are an open and affirming congregation of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. We welcome all persons into membership and leadership, just as Christ has welcomed us. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you are on your faith journey, who you love, or what you look like, you are welcome at North Christian Church. Our identity statement says we invite all persons to share their diverse gifts regardless of age, ability, physical condition, race, cultural background, economic status, sexual orientation, gender identity, family structure, and religious or political affiliation. You know, a lot of churches say everyone is welcome. They may even have it on their church sign. But often I've found that they don't really mean it. At North Christian Church, we believe in a loving God. God is love, radical, inclusive love. There are no exceptions. No one falls outside the reach of God's outrageous, revolutionary, and all-encompassing love. Every time I have ever attended an LGBTQ plus Pride event, I have always made the point to visit all the booths of all the different faith groups who are there and offer a sincerely grateful thank you to them for demonstrating in a profoundly visible way that there are Christians and other faith groups who do truly welcome all people. It is so vitally important for those of us in the queer community to know that we can be safe, we can be ourselves, we can be authentic, and we can be an integral part of a spiritual community. As an out lesbian pastor, trying to find a position in ministry, I found it very difficult to find a church that would accept me and invite me to be their pastor. But 4 years ago, I was finally called to be the pastor at North Christian Church. And the church and I have been working together along with our partners from other diverse faith communities in Columbus to love God, to serve this community, and to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ as we celebrate diversity, work for equality, and fight for justice for all persons. I am thrilled that Columbus has its very own Pride Festival. Way back when I attended an early Pride March in Indianapolis in the early 1990s, the organizers hadn't secured the kind of licensing needed to block off any downtown streets or anything, so we had to obey all the traffic signals and stay on the sidewalks and, that kind of thing. It was more or less a organized stroll around the circle and in the downtown area of Indy instead of a march. But Indianapolis Pride has grown exponentially since then. They attract big name talent to headline the event. The parade goes on for more than 2 hours, and there are literally thousands and thousands of people in attendance. It's great. It is so much fun. But you can get lost in a sea of people. Now that Columbus has its own Pride Festival, you can bump into people that you know and learn more about local organizations that you might like to support and get involved with. It didn't even start small. The Columbus Pride Festival started big. People were so excited and thrilled to have our own event. I think it was a complete surprise to Erin Bailey and her team, the kind of response they received and the number of people that turned out. Here we are, year 3, and we are having to do things a little bit differently. The pandemic has forced us to think creatively about how to maintain community connections, and I am grateful to Caitlin Herrick and her team for making the necessary decisions to keep us all safe and yet providing a way for us to stay connected and to demonstrate our unique Columbus pride. Pride is so very important. And here, when I'm saying pride, I'm not referring to the festivals, I'm referring to the feeling of pride. Deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from being who you were created to be. Confidence and self-respect. A humble and content sense of attachment to a group. A fulfilled feeling of belonging. Pride is the sense that you were created to be exactly who you are. And you should celebrate that. You are valuable. You are important. You are loved. just the way you are. It is important that we all feel pride. Not pride that creates a sense of superiority over others, but the pride that acknowledges that we are each unique individuals. Pride that there is only one you. The mutual kind of pride that can celebrate your uniqueness while we also celebrate my own uniqueness. The namaste kind of pride, the sacred in me recognizes the sacred in you. We are all created to live with integrity and pride in who we are. In a culture and society that is intently focused right now on pointing out differences and capitalizing on dividing and marginalizing groups of people, this kind of pride, this kind of uniting, celebratory, respectful pride is just what we need more of in this world. Pride is for everyone. For those who identify as LGBTQ+, and for those who love them. Pride is for each of us to feel and experience and celebrate. I can simultaneously have pride in who I am and be bursting at the seams with pride in who you are. Have pride in who you were created to be. North Christian Church will celebrate Pride on Sunday, August 16th during our YouTube worship service. You are invited to participate with us. Because it's on YouTube, you can tune in at any time. Just search for North Christian Church Columbus, IN to find our YouTube page and participate with us in celebrating Pride as a congregation. Happy Pride, everyone.
Positive Self-Talk, folk punk singer-songwriter performing 2 of her songs.
Hello, Columbus Pride. I am Positive Self-Talk. My name is Martina. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be on and sharing space with fellow queer folk. And I know it's a weird world right now, but I'm glad to be sharing this virtual space. We can all be proud of who we are. And that's a big part of what I try to be about in the Positive Self-Talk space. So I'm coming to you out of the closet today. That was actually not planned. This kind of happened. So, but I'm gonna play a couple songs for you today. My music is up on Facebook. My socials are up on Facebook. My music is on Bandcamp. I just put out a little EP that has this first song on it called Bisexual Land. So this is for all my bisexual people out there and biromantic people. This one is for you. Some of us aren't cisgenders, so this whole idea that bi just means two is really absurd. Cause your sexuality is your sexuality is your sexuality, and tell me to go leave you alone. You're a bisexual land. You're a bisexual land. We haven't chosen a side, it's not for you to decide. We may be married in heteronormative city relationships, and our attractions are, guess what? None of your business. Hey, you're bisexual. take you on a date. Some of us are monogamous, and that's really freaking great. We may not want to take you on a date, but that doesn't mean we don't think you aren't really cute. We're bisexual. We're bisexual. We're bisexual. We're bisexual. And also, don't erase us just because some of us do like to. It really doesn't matter who the heck you want to do or not, because maybe you're also asexual. Stop assuming you know anything about anyone's sexuality because erasure is so last year. Oh, and bisexual. You're bisexual. You're bisexual. Goodbye to biphobia. Thank you. These virtual things are always so interesting because there's no clapping, but you imagine it in your head. So I'm imagining claps, hopefully, I guess. Pride claps. So this next song is a song called Door that I wrote recently. I don't think I really played it out much, but it's a song I wrote about kind of my musical past and relationship with music, and how I've had to make a lot of difficult choices and decisions for myself regarding those things. But I felt like it was appropriate because it's just about crossing the threshold and making choices that are hard to make. And existing in the world as a queer person is hard to do, and it's sometimes hard to make that choice to come out or not to come out. But to know who you are even is difficult sometimes. So this is just a song and an ode to that. Again, I've been Positive Self-Talk. You can find me on Facebook and Bandcamp. My Bisexual Land song is on there for you. And all of the proceeds to that EP specifically, I should say, are going to help fund these other virtual shows that I'm hosting in the Indianapolis area. So that's a wonderful thing. Thank you for sticking around and checking me out. Y'all are wonderful. Will the scene eat me alive? Will the scene eat me alive? Will my ego come here to die and be resurrected alive? Some rock star dance and jive. I've already lived that life. Yeah, that rock star dance and jive. I've already lived that life. It's not me dead to me, and it's not oh Molly. It's just PST and all of me. It's not me dead to me, and it's not oh Molly. It's just PST in this community. Oh, I just needed to know that I was loved, not to prove who I was. I can play guitar with my hands just as good as any man. I play it for myself, not to impress anyone else. It's not me dead to me, it's not oh Molly. It's just PST. It's not me dead to me, and it's not oh Molly. It's just PST and all of me. Thank y'all. Feel free to have lots of pride in yourself. I know we're all kind of cooped up at home and it's a weird world, like I said, but love to you, and keep being who you are in whatever capacity feels comfortable for you. Love you all. I have been Positive Self-Talk.
Anthony Hayden, LGBTQ plus community member and person of color, former director of Black Lives Matters of Columbus, and an activist.
Well, hello, Pride. My name is Anthony Hayden. I grew up in Columbus. I came here in 1998. I have been Black for most of my life. I have been queer for, I guess, as long as I could know that I was. So let's talk a little bit about the Black part first, and then we'll get to the queer part. I was in organization Black Lives Matter of Columbus. We were together about 2 years. We did a lot of good in Columbus. We educated a lot of people in Columbus, but the mission goes on. The issue with the overall community not quite understanding why Black Lives Matter is the issue. All of us have to come together and realize that Black people don't feel like we've always mattered in this country. And certainly when it comes to policing, and certainly when it comes to Black death, that sometimes we feel like it doesn't matter. We are easily taken out, easily murdered, and people go on about their business, and there's no issue. Black Lives Matter will continue to fight for Black issues until we come to the day where we feel like all lives matter. Until then, Black Lives Matter. And that's something that I hold dear to my heart, and that I will continue to fight for. And to be honest, I am contemplating about starting Black Lives Matter of Columbus back up in Columbus. So I'm always welcome for people to reach out to me to help out. You can find me Tony Hayden on Facebook, and you can send me a message. And I'm always willing to hear people out, getting support. We very, very, very much appreciate it. And remember, Black Lives Matter forever, ever, ever. Now, let's go into the queer part of my life, okay? And we can talk a little bit of the Blackness as well. So I've been queer since I've known I was queer. And it's somewhat been a struggle for me. Certainly in the Black community, it's not looked at too positively. It's not an issue we like to talk about. And it's a struggle for any kind of Black person growing up queer. It's an issue. Sometimes I didn't really feel like Black people were too represented in the community. I have even far as seen somewhat racism in the overall LGBTQ community when it comes to Black people, Black queer lives. And that really saddened me, because when you hear people say, I would like to, I would engage with a Black person, but I don't know if I would date a Black person, or it's just my type. I don't date Black people. I don't date Black men. I don't date Black women. These are some of the things that we have to really work on in the community. As a Black person, we can't help our skin color. That's something that it's just that we can't change. And it hurts. It hurts people like me when you hear certain things like that. Now, overall, my experience being black and queer has not been horrible. There is moments that I didn't quite understand where I was represented. There was no magazines, there was no movies, there was no nothing that represented me. So being a subculture inside of the culture is very interesting. I think that we've got better, and I think certainly now black queer voices are strong, but it had to work to get there. And you have to remember that all voices should be in the picture. All voices should have some say in the overall issues, okay? We can't ever silence anybody's voices. We have to make people feel like they're wanted in the community. And I feel like things have changed, and we are working toward that to include everyone. And also remember, everyone, including trans rights. I am a big proponent for trans rights because I feel like maybe because I understand as being the subculture in the gay community, I kind of understand sometimes maybe where they're coming from, not fully, because I'm not trans and I don't understand fully, but I can quite understand feeling like you're not part of the group. So that's why I said I fight for all my trans brothers and sisters, and it's a major passion for me because maybe I just it comes from the heart that I want to make everybody inclusive and make everybody's life better. So like I said, my life's not been too horrible being gay and black, but I struggle like everybody else of not feeling good enough, not feeling wanted, not feeling like anybody desires me. But I've worked for myself for many, many years. When I came out when I was 20, and it's been a work in progress. I am now 31 years old. I'm getting very old, but it's taken this long for me to feel 90% comfortable with myself. And everybody still has that 10%. I still have that 10% where I'm still not comfortable. But I'm working on myself, and hopefully by the time I leave this earth, I will be 100% that I will be me, loud, proud, out there, not caring about anybody's opinion. And hopefully with the community, the wider community can start reaching out to black queer lives and letting them know you matter. You matter. And that's what I want to see more of. And I'm so happy that the Pride Festival even considered me, even cared what I had to say. I so much appreciate it. And like I said again, through this whole issues that we're going on right now, the COVID-19, it's been a struggle for everyone. And I want everybody to remember, just try to be patient and care about each other, love each other. But more than anything else, love yourself, or at least try to love yourself. Thank you so much.
Southern Indiana Taiko, Japanese taiko drumming group in Columbus, Indiana. They offer lessons in their Columbus studio. Here, they're performing 2 taiko pieces.
Hi, Pride people. I'm Gail, Director of Southern Indiana Taiko. Taiko is an ancient form of Japanese drumming, and the word taiko actually means big drum. Southern Indiana Taiko, we perform throughout the state of Indiana, and we have a studio right here in Columbus. So after you see our show, if taiko is something you just really have to try, look us up on Facebook or give us a call, because taiko is very pride friendly. So without further ado, we've got a couple of pieces for you to just show you what taiko is all about. Our first number is actually going to feature some of our students. So Southern Indiana Taiko. Happy Pride from Southern Indiana, Tycho! Hey!
Welcome, Sarah Franklin. Sarah is a member of the Columbus Pride Committee. Here she will be doing some digital art.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is part 1 of 3 of the interactive art projects for the Columbus Pride 2020 Virtual Festival. My name is Sarah Franklin with Chemical Perspectives. Are you ready? Let's go. This will be a digital painting, so bring out your favorite software, stylus, and let's get started. For this painting, we'll be using the Buy Pride flag colors as a sunset and a background. We're going to be painting it some very visible Columbus, Indiana structures. And this painting is going to be in a silhouette style, so keep that in mind throughout. Now we're going for dark muted colors in the foreground and bright vibrant colors in the background. The first thing we want to do is turn our white background gray, and that is going to help add a sunset nighttime vibe behind the colors of the Buy Pride. This is going to give us a nice depth. Now I chose a flat brush setting for this hot pink here, and we're going to use a variety of different sizes when adding this color to the bottom third of the page. Don't make every stroke the same. And this is because very few things in nature have perfect straight lines, so have fun with it. Next, I'm adding this beautiful purple color to the next 1/3 of the page. I tried to match the Buy Pride colors as much as I could, but feel free to choose your own purple. Now, just make sure that whatever brush setting that you're using, that you're keeping it consistent. So you want to use the same brush setting for the entire background. Now let's come in with this dark blue. Remember, this is a sunset, so we should start to see an element of that night sky here. I'm adding this blue to the remaining third of our canvas, but notice that I'm starting to round out and add a slight curvature to those lines. This will help as we start to blend. Now, to blend the colors, all you have to do is choose a color in between both of those and put that in the transition area. So again, adding that slight curvature, blending, adding that blue, adding those different colors. So you can add for the transition between purple and pink, we can add that in between color, right? And you can do the same thing for the purple. Here, as you see, we're adding that slight curvature that's a color in between, and we're just playing with it. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a very dark blue, almost a black at the very top, and we're going to continue and have that circular pattern, and that is to give us the color to make it more seem like it's blending into a night sky with a black blue. Again, so play with the colors here, blend, add different transitions, make things different but similar. Make sure that black comes in nice and then that rounded color. And there you have it. That is our Buy Pride sunset background. Feel free to add your own style and flair here. Make it your own. However, do your best to keep that wonderful gradients of color. Now it's time to start adding our more prominent features. We're going to start with the Stewart Bridge. Now this is a bit tricky to get the angles right, but here are a few tips. We don't want the bridge to be centered on the canvas. We actually want it to be mainly on the right side of our canvas. We're going to need 4 diagonal lines that don't quite meet at the top. So I'm going to start with the leftmost pole and then add the right pole. Now, like I said, this is kind of a bit tricky, so feel free to use that back button as we get into this here. There's our first line. I'm pulling it up to the top there. And I used a flat, thick brush, and I played with the size of the brush. And now, like I said, I want to add this next line, but it's going to be at a farther out angle. Now, my brain wants to make it symmetric, but that's not quite the view and the perspective we're going for. So we need to make that rightmost pole a little bit more angled. Now let's go ahead and add the back poles to the bridge here. So we want these lines to meet the front poles about midway up these first lines that we made, but note that the left gap should be taller than the gap on the right. So we want the right one here to be pretty close together. We only have a little bit of gap. And for the one on the left, we're going to make that gap a little bit taller. Now, like I said, this is digital, so feel free to use that back button, undo button, until you get your bridge looking exactly the way you want it, how you want it to look. Now, here is a spot where we can take a little bit breather, or you can catch up if you're behind. Now, don't worry if you are, you've got this. Just play with it and have fun. Oh, also, make sure that you add 2 horizontal lines up at the top. This is going to make sure that it looks like the top of the bridge. All right, now we're going to start to sketch where we want our other features to go. So I'm going to sketch a bush on either side of this painting. Here I'm going to be adding the bush on the left side. I'm choosing a charcoal brush to mark the location. And I'm just wanting it to, what I want it to look like at the end. Don't worry if this is not exactly the shape that you're going for, but just kind of mark it. Now let's go ahead and add that horizon line. Don't make it completely straight. Add a few fun, slight elevation changes. And then we're going to go ahead and add the rest of the structures here. But first, let's go ahead and color in and black out this horizontal line. Now notice we did cut into our bridge a little bit. That's okay. Just make sure that your elevation, or that your gaps are, like we said, where the left one is taller and the right one is lower. Now let's go ahead and add that other structure. I'm going to add the steeple for the St. Peter's Church here. And this is just a thin, long triangle, just like that. Now let's go ahead and start to draw the courthouse. I'm making the courthouse rectangle be barely to the left of the center when I'm looking at the middle of the bridge here. And I'm just drawing out the basic shapes. A tall rectangle, and I'm adding a trapezoid on top of that. And then on top of that, I'm also adding one more smaller trapezoid. Now make sure that when you're drawing these shapes, the edges of your trapezoid on the bottom are a little bit bigger than the next piece. This adds a nice silhouette. Now go ahead and color that whole thing in with black. Now this is where the power of digital comes in too. So I'm choosing a line brush setting. So I only have to draw one stroke to be able to get the grading that I'm looking for. I'm using a pencil setting. Now, if you don't have that, feel free to just get your pencil setting and draw it by hand or use the brush, but play with it, make it your own. Now I'm going to take the pencil and draw the tall lightning rod structure. Now let's take, so this is the clock tower, right? So let's take a very, very deep yellow. It actually almost seems brown when you're choosing it. And this is going to serve as our clock faces. Now when we look at this, the perspective that we're seeing here is we're actually looking at the corner of the tower. So we need to make the left clock face a tad squished. So our right one's a beautiful circle, and we're going to make our left one just oblong vertically, just a little bit. Go ahead and use a pencil setting in black to make our hands. Now the reason we're doing that oblong is because we're looking at it from that perspective, so it actually does look just a little bit squished. Now to give the illusion of the courthouse being the distance, I'm going to be using the blur tool on the shapes that we've just made. I'm making sure that I have my blur setting really low because I only want a slight blur. I don't want a smudge here. And be careful with your clock faces and the grading. Just barely give that a blur. It's a very subtle thing, but it actually plays a big part. Now here's a chance to just play with what we've got. Let's clean up those lines, perfect our shapes a little bit, and go ahead and take a breather if you're caught up, but if you want to spend some more time, let's just go ahead and clean up those lines, play with the background, do what you need to do, or we'll allow others to catch up. All right, now as we go into the next section here, I'm choosing a wide flat brush, and this is going to allow me to start working on the outside of the bushes. So I'm using this brush and I'm going to use it really lightly along the edges, and this kind of gives the illusion that the bushes are diffuse so that we can see a little bit of light coming through the background. So choose that brush and go ahead and play with the opacity and the size of the brush. All right, here we go. Let's start here. Again, keep that diffuse. I'm filling in the areas that I know that I want to be a lot thicker. Playing with the strokes, right? You can see some of the light coming through. I'm doing that to the bush on the right side as well. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add some green. But remember, I want the very left hand part of our canvas to be, it's the deepest in shadow, so thus it needs to be the deepest color. Play with the greens here, so I put the green and layered it on top of the black. I'm still using that same brush setting. Doing that over here on the right bush. Now it just seems a little bit too green now, so I'm going to add more black on top of that green. Keep the colors muted. Use green, dark green, and black. They're often the colors that I feel work the best. Now let's go ahead and think about the rest of our structures. So we drew the clock tower for the courthouse, but we haven't drawn the roof line of the courthouse. So I'm just going to, behind the courthouse, draw a trapezoid along our horizon line. Again, I'm going to be using a blur just a little bit. Yep, see, I'm just using my pencil tool, adding some shape there and adding just a tad bit of making it a harsh line, and then I'm adding just a little bit of blur. Now at this point you really should see this painting start of come into life. Really, this is the main part of the painting, so the rest of this is just finishing touches. I'm going to go ahead and add the tower, the church here, and I'm making it a harsh line and very dark to differentiate it from the bush that's in front of it. And now here comes here is a little bit of the tricky part. Now you can hand draw these lines that we're going to be drawing, or you can go into the settings in your software and use a ruler tool. But something that you want to pay attention to as we start to add the lines to the bridge here is that as the lines get closer to you, the viewer, the angle will get deeper. So in the middle of the page, or the back of the lines, they're close together and actually almost vertical. As we move into the foreground, the lines should start to space apart and actually angle more towards the horizon. This angling and spacing actually helps give the illusion of perspective. And don't forget that we're going to need to add small lines in the gaps between the poles of the bridges. Now this took me a couple doings. It took me a little bit to kind of figure out the way I wanted to, how I wanted these lines to be placed. I used a software tool, but you can hand draw this. You can start, as long as the lines meet up at the top of the bridge, you should be fine. The first line that I'm going to draw is going to be almost vertical, coming down. Again, adding another line as we go. As you see, we're going to start to mirror that. We're going to angle it down. Again, make sure to pay attention to the gap. Make sure to add at least one line for the support lines there. And the last two lines are almost very horizontal. I went ahead and added another line close together at the back to add to that illusion of perspective. And make sure to add lines that are coming down in the gap between the poles to the left. Now this painting is basically done. So the rest of what I'm doing here is just details, which often can take a painting from decent to very good, or the other way around. So for me, I'm using my software. It has a leaf setting, and hopefully your software has it as well. If not, feel free to play with any brush that you have. And I'm using this setting to add to the edges of the bush. I'm using a dark green, a dark black color. I'm just playing with the way that green and that black looks. Play with this, use different opacities, it's really up to you. I'm using green and black here. And there you are. That is pretty much it. The last thing that we have to do is we need to go ahead and sign our painting. Go ahead and sign your painting. I'm putting Columbus Pride Festival 2020, and I'm adding my initials to it. And there you are, a digital painting. Maybe this is your first digital painting, or maybe you're a pro and you could kick this painting up a notch. Either way, just have fun, make it your own, make it your art, it's yours. I hope you enjoyed this session. Again, my name is Sarah Franklin with Chemical Perspectives. I'll see you for part 2. Grab your crayons and printer paper for a rainbow fun-filled time. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Here is part 2 of 3 of the interactive art projects for the Columbus, Indiana Pride Festival 2020. So today we're going to be using media that almost everybody should have, a piece of printer paper and crayons. This is for all the kids out there, so feel free to grab some things if you'd like, and let's get started. So we're going to be painting the same image that we painted in the digital painting, but this time we're using the rainbow colors as the sunset. We're going to be using the same silhouette style of the famous Columbus projects and little spots like the Stewart Bridge or the St. Peter's Church. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a dark purple, and we're going to put this dark purple probably right here. I'm starting on the bottom third, and I'm just drawing all the way across, right? Feel free to use the side, and I'm going up, maybe about an inch or so, and I'm just coloring all the way across. I'm not trying to get a super straight line, but I'm kind of getting a straight line. Now I'm leaving part of this blank is because I know that we're going to come back with a black. And with crayon being a little bit different than any other media, I'm going to leave that blank for the moment. So I'm going to make this kind of thick if I can. Now let's go ahead and come in with a little bit darker red. This one says that it's red violet, if you can see that there. There you go. We're going to come in a little bit on top of it because we're going to try and blend, and again we're going to try and keep about an inch or so, give or take. Get the edges here, being fast, holding it, going into it just a little bit. I'm trying to keep that. I'm going to add just a little bit of rounding, just a tad, just to add some depth and perspective here. Just like that. Now let's go ahead and add the next color, which is going to be an orange. Now I've got several different colors of orange here to choose from. I'm choosing this scarlet. Feel free to choose whatever color you feel you would like to use. Again, coming in with just a little bit into that other crown and going about maybe an inch up, give or take. If my dogs bark, they're just excited, so ignore them. I should show some puppy pictures, that'd be fun. Okay. Going down into it just a little bit, and even going down into the purple down just a little lightly to add some depth and keeping that rounded kind of look. Now I'm going to add just a different shade of orange because orange is going to be the kind of main color here. I'm adding a little bit of a lighter color. This is the yellow orange, and that's because we're going to be going into a yellow, and the yellow to orange color can be a little drastic sometimes, so it's kind of best to add a little bit of a buffer color, which is this yellow orange here. Adding about an inch all the way across, keeping that round. Adding that color. Alright. Now, like I said, the next color is going to be this yellow. And this is just straight yellow, amarillo. Coming in on the orange, going up about an inch. Now the yellow is a little bit different because normally I associate yellow with the sun, but in this rainbow gradient we're going to have it be a mid color here. And yellow can be hard to see, so feel free, you see how kind of light that looks? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in just a little bit harder. I'm pressing just a little bit harder on it. Okay, next I'm coming in with this little yellow green, which is, you know, green yellow. We're going to again blend into it and just above it for about an inch. You see that color there? Now this green is very yellow, and I'm not liking how it looks, so I'm going to come in with a bit of a darker green. Let's come in with this other green here. Yeah, there we go. That's looking a bit better. Something I'm liking to see. So feel free to take a second, catch up, add some different perspectives here. I'm going up about an inch into the green, into the yellow a little bit, and I'm using kind of light strokes. I'm not super using heavy, but I am heavy when it's by itself, right? This is to kind of help blend, add that rounded perspective that we're seeing. Just like that. Adding a little bit more pronounced roundness because we're kind of coming to the top of this color here. So I'm going to add just a slightly lighter green or darker green because we're going to transition into blue. And I'm adding it just about, basically just covering that top here. I'm going to come down with some little bits like that to kind of give some perspective. Playing with it. I'm going to add a light blue here. This blue color says that it's blue-green. Perfect. And it's, when I grab it, it looks to me very teal, but it's going to work. We're going to blend it into that green just a tad. Give us about an inch. And go all the way across in that circular pattern. Just like that. Again, kind of coming down into the green. Just a little playing with some of that transitions colors. Alright. Now let's go ahead and start adding a deeper blue. Now I've got like 3-4 different colors here. So I've got indigo, beautiful, funny, I like a pun, and blue and cerulean. I'm probably going to go, since we want this to be a night sky, let's try this regular blue and then go into this deeper indigo. So using straight blue here. As you can see, this is where we're at. Yeah, that looks great. Coming in with this color. Here we are. Keeping that rounded perspective. Again, coming into that color before it, just to add some of that transition. Just like that. Let's add that darker blue. This indigo color. And it's kind of purpley. Ooh. Which is fine. It's adding some nice color there. As you can see, the circle, I've got a little bit of this extra space here. So now I'm going to come in with the black. So I just have this straight black crayon here. And I'm going to get these edges. Just like that. Now I am coming down into the other colors a bit on the side because I want this to kind of feel like it's blending really well. Coming across, going down, coming across to the other side here. Adding colors like that. Alright, that's pretty much our sunset. Now you can play with it. Again, kind of add some circles. I'm adding some just lines, some light lines through here. You can even add some to the background like this. Some light black lines there. And that's pretty much our sunset. Nice and easy. Easy to do. Sometimes I'll come back with another color and like fill in some of this white that I see. Usually on like digital or painting I'll color it like black or some other color, but I didn't want to do that today. Using this red to just kind of fill in some of these spots. Be careful when you go up into the yellow. Be very light. You don't want it to your one color to overpower the other colors that you added. I'm using the violet red here. Filling in some spots, add in some of these red lines, even going up here to the black. Just some nice blending. Alright, now let's start with our horizon line. So we didn't fill that in, right? We've got about a little spot like 2 inches or so. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a thick line, and I'm going to go up into my purple a little bit like that. Don't want my line to be completely straight. And just like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and color that in. Now, because this is in the foreground, I'm going to want this to be a little bit darker and more filled in. Do you see how the crayon kind of leaves this pattern? Especially if you're coloring on a different or a very textured table. So I'm trying to be a little more conscious about the white that's left and be pressing a little bit harder or going over that area more frequently to kind of try and fill that in as much as I can. We're going to be using a lot of black in this painting here, or this drawing I should say. Make sure to get your edges. Feel free to use different strokes, because again, we're trying to fill this in as much. Now it still has a lot of this, so I'm going to come back again, pressing just a little bit harder with my crayon. Filling in those lines that I made. I want it to look cool. Alright. And there is our nice horizon line. So what's going to make this be a nice horizon line is how you have the different changes in elevation. And when we start to add our structures, we're really going to see how that becomes a horizon. So the first structure that we're going to be adding is the Stuart Bridge. Now this can be a bit tricky, but I want it to be on the right half, most of the right half of my page here. And the bridge itself is a bit tricky to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come here. I'm going to kind of build, I'm lightly pressing just in case I don't like my line. And I'm just going to almost straight, slightly curve or slightly angled line. Just like that. So again, I'm doing it lightly first so I can kind of get the angles right. Now this one you just kind of have to free look at it. You can grab a ruler if you'd like and to draw that straight line or a different straight edge, but I'm just going to freehand it. Now the second line of our bridge, we want it to be kind of angled like this is this angle, right? We kind of want the other one to be a little more pronounced angle, kind of like that, because that's the perspective that we're looking at. So I'm going to start up at the top again, kind of right about here. Again, I'm just keeping it more angled. Now it's hard for me because I really want it to be symmetric and my brain says make it symmetric, but that's not how this perspective works. So you can already see you're looking at it from a distance. So what I'm going to do is I like these lines, I like how they look. So I'm going to go ahead and fill them in a little bit thicker so that it looks like the bridge. So I'm just kind of going over my line, heavy like that. I'm pulling my bridge down into my horizon. And we're definitely going to have to fill that guy in a little bit later. But I'm making these lines just a tad bit thicker, trying to keep it very straight as I can, which is ironic because I'm bi. All right, good puns. Again, coming up, pulling it up like that. Pulling that line down, making it straight. Nice thick line, just like that. Make it just a little bit thicker on this edge here. One nice bridge pole. There we go, the leftmost pole. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. Again, try and keep that angle right as however you put that angle before. Try and keep it the same. Let's just thicken that line a bit. Pulling it down.
Now it's a little bit not quite as thick as the other one, so I'm going to make it just thicker again. There we go. Okay. Boop. Now we have to draw the back lines. Keeping it straight. Pulling down from the top. I want it to mirror that other one pretty closely, but not quite. And I want it to meet up at the top. I like where that's placed, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that guy in to be thicker. Just like that. Now notice I'm making this gap here be a little bit big, but not super big. Just like that. You do the same thing, but this one is going to be almost, it's still going to mirror here in a way, but it's going to be like that ish. Almost straight, not quite. We're going to come down. We want it to, oop, I lied. I want it to be much, let's see. Here we go. Just like that. Making that line thicker. Making this pole thicker because I want this pole to be in the front. There we go. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh, this is just a little bit too thick compared to this one. So I'm going to make this guy just a bit thicker to compensate. And that's art, just adjusting, playing with colors, playing with shapes. Going on the outside here, making that guy just a tad thicker. I'm going to make this guy a little bit thicker as well. There we go. Bam. Get some of that excess crayon off. Boom. You have the poles of your bridge. Now let's go ahead and add the 2 horizontal cross braces. So I'm adding a thick piece up here, and I'm adding another thick piece about an inch down or so from it. Just like that. Cleaning up some of these edges, pressing kind of hard to get some of that white out. Again, we want this to look foreground, so really, really make that dark as you can. There we go. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and start adding some of the different features that we're going to see in the foreground. I'm kind of done with black at the moment, so I'm going to take my really darker green, some darkest green I've got. So I'll be using a different black and maybe some indigo. I'm going to be drawing the bushes. So I'm starting here in this corner. I'm just kind of, I don't know, just kind of figuring out what I think the bush would look like. And I want it to be kind of this like shoeish like shape.
You see how it's kind of like a stair step? And I'm just kind of being real light, just kind of doing a motion that's like this, because I want that outside edge to be diffused. Now with crayon, most everything is diffused, so you'll be okay here. Now I'm going to come down to the bottom, and I'm going to have it kind of stop right here. And I'm just going to go to town with my green. Just let's cover over all of that. Green, green, green. We're going to be coming back with a black later. And so feel free to kind of go to town, play. Like, you don't have to worry about the motion of your hand or the strokes that you're making. Just make sure that it's colored in. Try and keep it random because we want this to be leaves. So for leaves to be random, in a sense. You can also add different random leaf patterns if you wanted to add strokes. 1, 2, 3, like that. You could. For the moment, I'm just going to color it in. Bush. I'm going to go over here. Now I know that I want a small bush here, so I'm going to have it kind of like there. Figure out where my bush is. I'm going to make them come up kind of like that, almost like a tree. And again, color it in. Oh, I think that guy is a bit thicker, a bit darker. All right, but we want this to be silhouette, so we're going to take our black and just continue to blend this bush into a blackness. So we want it to be in the foreground, but we still want it to look like a bush. So be careful with your strokes here. Try and keep it quote unquote bush-like. Just play with it. You'll have a great time. Just playing with the different pressures of my hand. I'm gonna make my bush a little scratchy on the top, like that. Coloring in the pieces. Trying to get that sunset to be seen behind it, but also we want it to be mostly covered and mostly into the foreground. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some circle pieces at the top. So a lot of bushes have a roundness to them, and I'm just doing a motion that's like this. Lightly, basically trying to make it feel like a bush. This is like quote unquote leaves. Doing that down here. You can even draw leaves if you want. Adding, diffusing that edge basically. Like that. Okay, we're going to do this to the other bush now as well. I'm just going to, since this bush is small, I'm just going to start with those small circular motions. don't have as much to color in on this one. You can even make a circle like that if you want. That can make it seem like a bush as well. Again, make sure to pull it down into the horizon line there. Just like that. Play with the color. If you have a darker green, feel free to use a darker green. I wonder what the blue will look like if we use a dark blue. It's not looking awful. It's alright. Looking okay there, I think. There we go. Sorry, the camera fell a little bit there. How's that? It's a bit better, huh? Add in some blue. Sometimes you'd be surprised at the colors that blend well together. And depending on the medium as well. So I'm going to add some of those circles over here. All right. Now let's get our black back out. I'm going to add St. Peter's steeple right here. Make a small triangle just like that. Fill it in. I'm also going to add the tower over here. Drawing a straight line. Coming down. Giving it just a tad bit of space like that. It's not quite straight, so let's make it a bit straighter. And fill it in just like that. All right. Now looking at this, my bridge is a little narrow, so we're going to have to be careful when we do our courthouse. But that's all right. So right in pretty much left of center of the bridge, I'm going to draw another taller than this rectangle. So I'm going to go up like that. And it's going to take most of my bridge space, but that's okay. Draw the rectangle. And I'm going to make my top piece just a little bit bigger. Draw this trapezoid. Boop. Like that. And then again, make the top piece a little bit taller. And another little trapezoid. Like that. And then the grading on the top, so it's just a couple lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then one tall piece that comes up like this. Now, this is going to be the clock tower, so we need to use yellow here, and unlike with digital or painting, crayon is hard to put light color on top of dark color, but we'll give it a shot. But I know that I want most of this colored in, so I'm going to lightly color it black, okay? I'm not pushing super hard. I know that I want most of it to be colored in. Kind of blending just like that. Lightly colored black. Now I know that we're going to have two clock faces. We're looking at this piece from the corner. So the center of our piece is the corner of our courthouse. So I'm going to go ahead and take yellow, straight yellow. I'm going to draw a small, pretty thick little circle right there. It's hard to see, so we're probably going to come around with some brown later. But for the moment, I'm going to mark it. And I'm going to draw an oval next to it.
just like that. That's because we're looking at it a little bit differently from the corner there. I'm gonna go ahead and draw one thick line like that. Kind of play with this because I know that that's how it looks. Now it's all silhouette, so this is all just subtle. So you could just color it all black and add the yellow, but it's hard to do with crayon. So come in with a brown. I'm gonna color that clock face just like that. And then over here on this side. And then I'm going to come in with the black and color around it and shade in what we've got. Color in the top. Trying to go around my brown circles so that I keep them preserved. And then a nice perspective trick is when you have the center line down here, you can play with the angle. So for 1 minute, I'm going to go with an angle like that. And on the other side, I'm going to do an angle like that. That will help give us the perspective that we're looking at the corner here. I'm going to do that the entire way, keeping that angle if I can. Whoop. And I broke my crayon. That's alright. I still have this piece. Doing well. And again, I'm pressing kind of hard because I don't want that sunset to be in the background. Just like that. Cleaning up some of these edges as best I can. Adding that thick line there. And then I think that my edges here are a little too edgy, so I'm going to make my clock tower just a little bit thicker. There. I think that looks a bit better. Trying to keep a clean, thick edge there. Okay, now is the fun but hard part. So now we're coming to the end of this piece. We're going to add the lines to the bridge. So I'm probably going to use a gray first because the lines are probably what I think is the hardest. So I'm going to use this gray color. I'm going to try and get the support struts here for this piece. Now I know from looking at this and doing this before that I'm going to have a line come from here and go almost all the way out to here. And it's going to look like that, and then like that. This piece will have mostly pieces here. We'll not have any coming out like this. Remember, we're looking at this kind of from the left. So we'll see most of the struts over here, or the support wires. Okay, so I'm just gonna come at the top, and I'm gonna draw a light, thin line coming down, and I'm not particularly happy with it, but it will work. I'm gonna come down just like that. Do your best to make it straight, but again, it's a crayon painting, so don't feel super bad if it's not straight. And if you want to, feel free to grab a ruler. Now, as we go to the back, we want our lines to be a little bit closer together. As we look at things in the distance,
The farther away it is, the closer together it looks. So I'm going to add a line there. Try and add one in the middle with crayon. There we go, like that. I'm going to add one piece basically straight down in front of our courthouse. And then I think there needs to be one or two in this little space here. Looks like we're going to be getting one with the space that we have. Now, I like that pretty good, so I'm going to come back with this black and make it just a little bit thicker. Or a little bit darker at least. Now I'm pushing relatively hard because I want it to be a consistent line, but feel it out, do what's best for you. Piece. I'm just following the lines that I made. Now don't try to do this with the hand. The key to making a semi-straight line is actually moving your whole arm, or moving from your wrist or your elbow. The wrist is not, can move a lot more spaces than your elbow can. Okay. And then getting that line. And then coming with one line in the middle. Boop. Now, I look at this guy and I see he's kind of wonky, so my perfectionist tendency is like, ah! But for this painting, it looks like a bridge. It makes me happy, so we'll keep it. If you really wanted to, you could pick off this. You could take like a knife or a spoon and try and scrape off the crayon if you want and try and put it back, but it's much harder to do that. Okay, I'm gonna have one line come out like that, and I'm going to try and get multiple lines in between here, but I think we're just going to be able to get one. I'm just using the black here because I feel much more comfortable on this side. Let's see if I can add one more piece. Boop. Just like that. All right, and there you have it. One painting. Kids, good job playing with this. Feel free to make your bushes more bushes and play with the horizon line. So I might go back and make this horizon line darker if I want. I might fiddle with the colors and blend my colors a bit better. But whatever you want to do, it's yours. And I'll go ahead and sign it. I think I have this white. Let's see if this white will work. Nope, not gonna work. That's okay. I can take a pen, or I can use my black and I can go and sign it up there. 2020 and my initials. All right, thanks for coming out, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a great day. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sarah Franklin with part 3 of the interactive paintings for the Columbus Pride Festival 2020. So this time we're actually using paint. Who's excited? I'm excited. So here are a couple of things that you're going to need. So you've got your canvas. This is a pretty small canvas for me. It's about a hand size, a little bit bigger than a hand size. Pick whatever works for you. I've got 4 different kinds of brushes. I've got my big bad boy here. He's flat. I like him. I've got another smaller dude that I like. This guy is nice and
firm, so he'll be really great for when we start to draw the bridges. And then I've got this guy for the detail pieces. Okay. You can use only one brush. I'm preferring to use 4, but use it however you'd like. A couple of the other things that I have here is I've got my mixing board, which is just this plastic lid because I'm cheap, and that's what I've got. And my other one is dirty, so we are where we are. I have a rag used to wiping off the brush, something I don't mind getting paint on. And I also have all the different types of oil painting. So I'm using oil here. If you use acrylic, that is okay, but make sure acrylic adds different. You have to be a little bit thicker when you add color on top of other color. So pay attention to that. So a lot of the colors that we're going to be using today are some of the classics. So I've got a classic lamp black. I've got a nice titanium white, which will be used in a lot of our mixing. I've got 2 different colors of blue. I've got this cobalt blue, and I also have this ultramarine blue, which is a little bit darker. I have a little bit of yellow if we need any green, but we're not going to use a ton of this. And then just a tad of Azulian crimson for our red. Okay. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and take some of my white here and my black. Now it's been a minute since I've used these, so I'm just going to open it. Squeeze out a decent section of black. Now, like I said, oil is thick, so it kind of comes out like that. That should be all the black that we need, since black goes a long way, but we'll see. We'll hold this guy for later. I'm going to add a lot of white. Get rid of that little dude. And some of them are hard to open sometimes, so use my shirt here. Get this guy open. Alright, and I'm going to add this way over here because I know that's going to be used for mixing a lot. I'm going to add a bunch of white. Boom. And every time I am making sure to put my caps back on, oil can dry out pretty easily if you're not careful with your paint, so make sure you put those caps back on. Next, I'm going to add some of this cobalt blue. So like I said, we're going to be using, this is going to be the trans colors for the flag. So it's a light blue, a light pink, and a white-ish color. I'm going to add some blue. You probably don't need a ton, that should be good. And then last, I'm going to add the red. Basically just putting a dollop for each color. And I'm going to add some yellow. But I'm actually going to add it. This is lemon yellow. Boom. Now, the other thing that I have is this acetone. So it's in this little container here. You can have this. It's totally superfluous, really, but I find it very useful. This is what the inside looks like. This is kind of where you can just clean off your brushes. It's really useful for thinning out oil paint. If you're using acrylic, you could just use water to change your brushes or change your color. If you have this, feel free to use it. If not, water and a little bit of soap in it and brushing it on your rag here will do just the job, or feel free to use different brushes for different colors. That's always an option as well. Alright, you guys ready to get started? First thing we're going to do is I'm going to take my big brush and I'm going to just drop him in my container just a little bit so it's wet like that. I'm going to dab it just a little bit. I'm going to take just a tad of this white
And I'm going to move this around so you guys can see it just a bit better. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to add a nice thin layer of white to this background. This is totally not necessary, but I like to do it. It gives it, when we start to blend colors a little bit later, it makes it just a tad bit easier. Like I said, just using a light bit coming in. Oop, and that guy's got some stuff on it, which I don't like. Oop, oop. Nice light coat on the bottom. Now, oil does a really good job of keeping the strokes of your paintbrush. So if you're trying to do a flat layer, try and use a light touch and just barely touch things. Okay, so next I'm going to go ahead and start to add our colors. So the trans flag is a light blue, a pink, and a white for a sunset. So first off, I'm really going to need to set our background. So I'm going to go ahead and use my small brush here that I plan to use for the bridge a little bit later. I'm going to use this brush. I'm going to get them just a bit wet, making sure to dab it off just a bit. And I'm coming in with this black. And I'm setting my horizon line. Let's see. You guys see that? Is that a bit good? Coming in about, I don't know, a third up the way. Just like this. Light strokes. Like I said, make sure to change your elevation just a tad. I'm going to come in just like that. Nice and easy. I'm going to go ahead and fill it in using some more black, tapping just a little bit into my diluter there. Now remember, this is going to be a silhouette style, so make sure that your black is very thick and you're not seeing any of your canvas from behind of it. I'm going into the bottom of the other underside of the canvas a little bit as well. Coloring it in. Just like that. There you go, nice horizon line. So I'm going to set this brush down. And actually, I'm going to pick up another brush. You can clean your brush if you want, but for me, for ease, I'm just going to use a different brush. And I'm going to try and make a pink color. So I'm going to take a big chunk of my white. I'm going to put it here. And I'm barely, I mean just barely touching this red. Probably something like that. That's probably still too much, but we'll see. And I'm going to put it into my white. I'm just going to mix, 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 mix. If you have a pink, of course you can always buy the colors that you want. I prefer to just kind of keep mixing my own. That's just me. Now I know that this pink is going to have to cover a pretty big chunk of this canvas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more white because I think that I'll need just a bit more paint. So I'm just going over here, grabbing these big chunks of white, putting it here, and again just barely touching that red, mixing it together.
a very light pink. If you want a darker pink, you can go darker. And for ease, let's go ahead and put one brush on the canvas, see how it looks. Looks pretty light on the camera. So I'm going to actually add just a little bit more red. See if I can get this to show just a bit better. Going for a slightly darker pink. Just swirling it around, touching it like that. Let's see how that red looks. Yeah, it's a bit darker. All right, so what I'm going to do is nice even strokes like this. And I want it to come all the way down to where the black is. Now remember, we're going to be adding bushes and the Stuart Bridge, Christian Tower, and the St. Peter's steeple, so you don't have to get right close to the edge, but do your best. I'm just curling this across, keeping my strokes even. You can leave the lines there, or you can smooth them out like I'm doing. Just like that. If you have an easel, sometimes it's easier to use the easel. The only easel that I have is really big, and it did not work for this painting, so we are painting on the table here. I'm trying to get pretty close to that bottom edge there. Remember, the key to a smooth stroke is your arm motion and not necessarily your hand motion. Okay. Now I'm going to come in with a, let's use this other brush. Put our pink brush down. I'll come in with this big brush that I mentioned earlier. I'm going to come in with some white, just plain white. Just kind of going to go, I'm going to use real thick. I'm going to come across like this. So the trans flag has blue, pink, white, pink, blue. So I don't quite want to do that. I want to have a more even color. So I'm going to come through with this white, kind of add some fun little streaks in here. That's the cool thing about oil, is it's got this funitude where you can layer things. I remember what I said, that we're going to be covering up a lot of this with the black features, so don't go too crazy here, but just put in some fun things. Now, since this has been white and I've got a little pink on it, I'm wiping it off. I'm going to set him down. I'm going to come in. Now, I'm going to come in with a different brush. Or again, you can clean off your brush. I'm going to get him a little wet in the acetone. Wipe them off just a bit. I'm going to start mixing the blue color that I want. So I'm going to come in with my white. Again, take a big glop of white. Put it there. Barely touch your blue. Just barely. See how quickly that spreads? Adding it to our blue, or to our white here, and let's start mixing. Now it's a nice color, but I think it's probably a little too light, and I want it to look kind of baby blue, so I'm going to come in with some more. Now, a neat trick is if you don't want to use a lot of paint, sometimes you can just pull these colors by opening the cap of your paint and just touching the cap with your brush. Some people like to do that. Sometimes it depends. If I know I'm not going to be using a ton, that's something that I'll do. But for the moment, I'm okay with using this amount of paint. Okay, I think that's a decent blue. Now I'm going to come in. I'm going to just come on top of my white. Again, fun strokes. Kind of blending down so that there's not really a definite line between the pink and the blue. playing with this white that's over here. Wiping my brush off a little bit because it had some pink and white on it. Now this blue is going to go pretty much all the way up top. Again, we're keeping this circular-ish pattern. I'll kind of tap in like this, adding some fun texture to this painting. Making sure that I'm covering up the white canvas color. I come down here and kind of fiddle with this pink and blue here. Play with it. I might even take this blue and just kind of smooth this guy out just a bit. Wiping him off. Now, I like this blue, but remember this is night sky, so what we're going to do is we're going to transition to just a bit of a deeper blue. So I'm going to add a decent more blue to my color that I had. You could make another blue if you don't want to keep it mixed, but I definitely want there to be a darker blue. So I'm going to add some more. Get some of a deeper blue. There we go. That's looking nice. Now, the brushes can pick up a lot of paint. See how much paint is on this brush here? So you can press it, roll your brush to get it off, or you can push and pull. It kind of comes off the side to mix it. All right, and I'm going to add this color here. Going back into our lighter blue to kind of blend those lines. Coming up the top here. Pulling this color across. Now notice there's different opacities of blue. That's kind of what I want because the sky isn't always the same exact color. Sometimes there's a deeper shade of blue that kind of comes in, sometimes not. Just like this. And this line is too thick for me, so I'm going to come in and just kind of play with the colors. I'm just using different stroke methods here to blend it. Now I'm going to wipe off this brush a bit. I'm going to come back with my white brush that I had earlier. This white brush. I'm going to use my pure white. I'm going to add some thick white streaks like that. Adding some more white. Now I'm trying to keep it on the sides here, so almost cloud-like. I'm keeping it on the sides because I know that my main point here is going to be the bridge, and then I know that this section here is going to be the bushes. I know there's another section here that's going to be the bushes. So I think that's pretty good for the moment. Maybe put some up here on the top. Make sure to get your curled edges of your canvas. Wiping that brush off. Now for the fun part. So I'm going to add my black. Now notice my black got some pink on it. So I'm going to take my rag here. And I'm really going to make sure I just get off that black. I don't want that black to be filled with pink. It needs to be just black. So cleaning that brush, putting my rag back up there. All right. Now let's add our fun pieces. So make sure to get some black. We want our bridge for the Stuart Bridge to be almost center of our canvas, but more on the right side. And we want a nice line that goes almost vertically from here all the way up to here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my hands just a little bit dirty and kind of touch the sides here lightly. And I'm going to pull my black, trying to keep it even. One nice, long, as straight as you can, stroke to most of the top. Now notice you pick up some of your color, so see that? Just like that. So when that happens, wipe your brush off, get more black, come in and clean it out. Pull down into your horizon line. Cleaning this up a bit. I'm going to try and get that edge. Cleaning up those lines. Just like that. And there you go. You have the leftmost side of our bridge. Next, I'm going to go ahead and use the black here. I'm going to draw the next post for the bridge. Now, it seems weird, but this bridge, I want to make the line actually a bit more angled, almost like this, because of how we're looking at this bridge from perspective. We're looking at it just when you come into town, so you're kind of looking at it from the left-hand side a bit. So to get that perspective, we need our angles to be a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, kind of near up where this guy is, real close. I'm going to pull at an angle. Now I've started to lose a bunch of paint, so I'm going to come in, pull with that paint. I'm losing it, so cleaning my brush because it's got that blue and that pink on it. Come in with some more black, just like that. Continue where I left off. Now I am pulling through this cloud, that's okay. We just have to be careful that we clean our brush when we go through colors that are real thick. The good thing about pigment paint is most everything eventually goes black, so if you color, it's much easier to go darker on something light than it is the other way around. So keep that in mind. Okay. Cleaning that brush. Getting more black. Now let's clean up some of these lines. Sometimes oil can leave these like little heavy pieces of paint on the side. See those little bits? So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of pushing them to the side, smoothing that out just a tad. I picked up some white. See there on the edge of my brush? So I'm going to cut that off. Okay, there we go. We're going to let that guy dry a bit. Cleaning up this guy. Notice that I'm blending my horizon line back horizontal. Okay, so the next step is to start adding some bushes. So I'm going to go ahead and take my black, get a decent amount on it. I'm going to kind of mark where I want my bushes to be. So I kind of want my bush to kind of bloop. Again, I'm going kind of like this, and we want the edges to blend just a bit. So if they start to pick up other color, that's okay. I'm doing a 2-layered bush, so I'm making it rounded like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull away from my edge with the black that's already on the canvas. Now we can add more black later. Trying to feel free to just play, see how I'm pushing like that, just kind of tapping it. I'm going to add some more black. Remember, this is the darkest corner of the screen, So we want this to be as black as we can. We actually might need more black. That's okay. And I'm playing with the texture down here as well because we want the bush to be in the foreground. With oil painting, texture can be a big thing. If you're using acrylic, just make sure that that section is darker. Tap in, tap, tap, tap. Have fun with it. All right, now what I'm going to do is a technique called dry brushing. So I'm going to set, I can either wipe this guy off, your black guy off, really well, so that he's basically dry like that. I'm just going to come in at these edges and just kind of tap them, filling it out, bringing that kind of diffused edge that we want to see. Just using the edge of the brush to kind of get a pattern, just like that. Make sure to make it not perfect circles, not even, because nothing in nature is straight. All right. Well, I'm not going to say nothing, but a lot of things in nature are not perfectly straight. Okay. Just a bit there. Bloop. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that bush to the other side over here. So come in with some black. Fill up your black a bunch. Start at the bottom. Make sure to leave space for the lines that we're going to be adding to the bridge and our St. Peter's steeple. Adding more black. This bush is smaller, so I'm just going to do that. Now notice it's coming in with that white, so what I can do is I can actually pick that white up and move it basically. It's one of the powers of oil. Come in, add some fun bushy bushes. Boop, boop, boop. Making sure to get down here. And I'm having my bush kind of blend with my line just down there. Again, tap, tap, tap. I'm going to clean off my black a lot. We're going to do that diffuse dry brushing edge technique that we learned earlier. Just kind of tapping it out. Be careful when you go into your white here because it can bring it in just a bit, so be careful. Nice, there we go. I like how that looks. Blending that out just a bit. Now I'm trying to decide. I can either add green here if I want, or I could add some more black right here because I don't like how it looks on the edge. So let's do that first before we switch to a different color. Let's just come in with a lot of black, edging that out just like that. Yeah, we'll let that dry a bit. Now I'm just adding some pieces. I want it to kind of look like leaves. So down here, just tapping. Right. Cleaning off my brush again. I think let's go ahead and move on to the courthouse. So make sure to clean your brush off really, really well. We want the only color to be here is black. So clean that baby well. Pretty clean. Now I actually have ran out of my black color, so I'm gonna add
some more black to my pile up here. Another big glob of it. Again, don't forget to recap. All right. Now I know that my main piece is going to be here. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this rag, wipe off just a tad bit of this paint. So I'm just using the edge here. And very, very carefully, I'm going to wipe away some of this white because I don't want it to mix. So this is another technique to either clean paint or you can use it as a blending technique as well. There we go. That's it. Going to be a bit easier to get my clean lines. Okay, let's go ahead and add our next poles, and then we'll add our courthouse. So coming in, adding black. Now we want the left-hand side. If I got a hair, be careful. Sometimes those hairs will get you. Pull that guy off. I'm going to start at the top here, and I'm going to come down pretty much with this guy. I want this piece to be much taller, the gap between the poles to be much taller on this side than it is on this side. So I'm starting up about midway. I'm just going to pull down like that. Now to clean up the edges. So you can also turn your brush if you want a thinner line. That's sometimes very useful. Again, broaching my horizon just like that. Okay. And the next piece that we're going to do, so we're going to make this side actually taller now that I'm thinking about it. Let's make this guy taller and this guy a little bit shorter. It's all about perspective. It all gives us the illusion of perspective. So we're going to come here. Oh, I need more black. I don't like how that line looks. He looks a bit not quite right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more black and thicken this line up top to kind of smooth him out just a bit. Yeah, there we go. Again, I picked up some white, wiping that wipe off. Cleaning my horizon line. Straightening this line. There we go. Next, we're going to add 2 horizontal lines at the top. 1, 2. And again, remember texture's a thing, so making sure to blend. Those poles should be in front of those pieces that are horizontal. All right. Let's go ahead and add the steeple for St. Peter's. And that's just a simple triangle right here. Boop, boop. Color them in. Make sure to make your horizon line come back. And he's not quite a steeple, it looks more like a triangle, so I'm going to make him just a tad bit taller. Boop, like that. There we go.
The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to start doing the courthouse. So the courthouse is going to be one long triangle. We're going to make him not be center of our bridge, just a little bit less center. We're going to go up about there. We're going to add some more black. I'm going to start to add, make it just a tad bit thicker. So I'm kind of going about making just another stroke to make that rectangle just a tad bit thicker. Now the courthouse has a unique shape. It's like a rectangle with a trapezoid on top of a trapezoid. Now this rectangle I've got is pretty close to the height that I want it to be. So I'm just going to add a little, kind of what looks like a triangle using the edges of my brushes here. One nice piece like that. Filling it in. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it down. And I might come back with my thinner brush and fix up those edges. I'm gonna add another trapezoid on top of it, coming out a little, just a tad, like that. I want it to be just a little bit shorter than that other trapezoid, so just barely tapping this guy. Filling it in. Okay. So now I'm going to switch to my thin super detaily brush. This bad boy. Gonna get some black. Make sure that it's decently put together. I'm gonna work on these edges, just trying to clean them up. Because I want those to be pretty harsh, but not completely harsh. It's just like that. Now notice, this guy is a little more that way than this way, so I'm going to come in and just add another stroke down with the brush that we were using before. We'll make the courthouse just a tad thicker. There we go. Also want to add, I'm going to use my thin brush again, doing some detail work here. Get some black. I'm going to add just a little bit of the roof line, like that. Blend him down, boop, boop, just like that, making sure to preserve your horizon line. I'm going to use this brush to draw the grading on the top. So just draw 3 or 4 lines. Now it's hard because I want to put my hands down, so hold your brush and just try and do one of these motions if you can. Or you can even turn the canvas if you want. I'm just going to try this. I'll see how it looks. 1, 2, get some more black. 3, 4, 5. That works. Now, I really don't like how it looks, so I might just come back and like fiddle with this some. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. That's looking a bit better. There's the grading on the top. All right. Brushing a little bit of this paint off. We're going to come back and do the clock tower a little bit later. And I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my regular black brush that we've been using. And I'm going to draw in the rectangle for the Christian church here. So Boop. I want this to be very, very black, very harsh lines. Notice I picked up some white there, which is acceptable. We'll just have to deal with it. Now you can go over your bush a little bit because we want to make sure that our bush is in front of this black line, right? So we'll come back and do the bush edges in just a second. Putting that black line in there, making sure to preserve my horizon line. Drawing my brush out, bringing my bush forward, just like that. I can even add more black. Okay. Now, while we wait for things to dry, which can take a long time in oil paintings, especially if you're using texture like this. So let's go ahead and let's mix up some of that yellow so we can get a green. So let's clean any brush, or feel free to use another brush. I'm going to take my yellow up here. I'm going to move it right here so you guys can see it. Come on, yellow. I'm going to add just a dab of blue, probably that much. And let's start to mix and see what kind of green we get. Again, you can use different greens if you actually have the oil paints to do it, but I prefer to mix it as it gives us a much more whatever color that I want to make. So I think that's too light of a green, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a tad, I mean just a tad of black. See if we can darken that bad boy up some. We'll probably have to add some more blue, but he's getting there. And just play with it. Because I want deep, dark, black green. This is the green that we have. And when you compare it, I think it's still too light. So let's add some more black. Maybe just a tad bit more. See how it goes. There we go. There's a color I want to see. Yeah, something like that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to try it. Let's just bloop. It's alright. As we start to go into this black and start to play with it, the other black that's there will start to come around. So I'm just dotting the sky here, bringing more color. I want this to be a bush, but we want it to be a very black silhouetted bush. Making sure to add a couple of those pieces up here on some of that lighter green here on the top. Getting too black, so I'm going to wipe some of that off. Come back in with some of this green and repeat process. You could be using a different type of brush if you wanted. You could use a flat fan brush. Those do really well at making diffused bush edges, but this is what I have, so this is what I'm using. I think that's true about a lot of art. You use what you got. Okay. There we go. I'm kind of happy with that. It's probably a little too bright down here though, so let's come in with some black. Black over that too light color. Now what we can do too is we can take a bit of the pink color that we had earlier. If you still have your brush, cool. If not, you should still have some of your color left, I hope. And just barely tap these edges with that pink. And that kind of gives a highlight, just a tad. I'm just kind of doing further stuff to diffuse that edge. Just a tad to make it fun. Now be careful when you use highlighting techniques like this. A little bit will go you a long, long way. There we go. Nice. I'm going to do this, since I have this brush in my hand, I'm going to go ahead and do that over here as well. Just add some highlight. Just a bit. Do I still have some of that blue? I do. Okay. Let's make sure to add that green to our other bush. Just like that. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my small brush and clean it off, or I'm going to use another brush. In this case, I'm going to be using this brush. I'm going to be making a yellow clock face. It's going to go 2 clock faces, one here and one just next to it here. So I'm going to take this yellow that we've got, and I think that it's going to be too bright. So I'm probably going to add the barest amount of black to it. I mean, like, I barely touched it with black. And it'll go just a little bit deeper yellow. Because remember, it's in the distance, so we shouldn't see a complete color change. Okay, I'm going to come in and just make one circle. Just like that. One clock face. On the other side, I'm going to make another circle, but it's going to be a little oval. That's again because of the perspective of which we're looking at it. See how that oval makes it look like there's 2 pieces to it? That's pretty much all we need this yellow for. Cleaning that brush off. Now I like this brush. It's got a decent pulling capability when because the next thing that we need to do is use and draw the lines for the bridge. So that's more black. So I'm cleaning this brush off really well. And what we're going to do is we're going to add lines from the bridge. So from the top piece here, we're going to, actually probably back here, and we're going to come straight down like that. And then as we get here, we're going to draw 2 lines, 1, 2. And remember, as things go into the distance, they get closer together. and that helps us have a perspective, as it were. So use the black. Now this is the tricky part, because this will be in digital or crayon or any other medium. It's hard to do straight lines. Honestly, straight lines are hard. So what you could do is you can wait till this dries if you wanted to, and you could use a ruler and draw your lines, or you can go ahead and try and freehand it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and freehand it. So I'm going to draw. We want these lines to be pretty thin. We don't want them to be as thick as our bridge poles, but we want them to be as straight as we can. So freehanding it goes. Let's try. I'm going to start here, kind of where I want it to end up. Right about here. Trying to keep it thin and straight. Going through this white there, picking that up, getting rid of that white, coming back in with more black. Just like that. And repeat process. Get black on your brush. We're going to kind of keep the same point, and I've got a hair, so let's get rid of that hair. Going across the church a bit, no, that's okay. Cleaning up these lines, we want this to be in front of that. Make sure to, every time, clean up your horizon. I think we can get one more line there, we'll see. In this gap here. All right. Now we're going to add our line at the back. It's pretty much straight up and down, but not quite. He's going to go right next to our bridge. Ooh, close. But that's all right. I'm sure, like many of you, I often use stick out my tongue when I'm painting. I get real quiet and I'm just like, oh gosh, straight lines. You can do it. And like I said, there's always the possibility of sitting, waiting, and letting it dry, and then coming back and using the ruler. But for the purposes of today's exercise, I'll be doing this. Now what I want to do is I want to make sure that my pole is definitely front and center, so I'm going to come back with some black and draw over my pole again, just to make it, because it's not quite as dark as I want it to be. And I want it to be like that. Bam. The lines that we need on the other side over here is just one in between here. You can put another line right here, but I feel like it kind of plays with the perspective too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add one. If I can get two, I'll try and get two, but one line through the center gap here. Ugh. It's not super straight, but that's okay. Happy little trees, as Bob Ross would say. Now, if I wanted to, I might try and come in with a little bit of pink. See if I can get that line back a little bit. Yeah. Ugh. There we go. That's a bit better. Okay. Now last, I'm going to come in and add some more white to these clouds and do some finishing touches there. So I'm using my white brush from earlier, coming in with some white colors. I'm just adding these highlights, these clouds, just like that. Now you can make it an actual cloud if you want, but I'm just doing the lines just to keep with this aesthetic. I'm even going to add one little cloud in between our bridge there. Maybe a piece down here. And I might, let's see how it looks. Let's take some of this pink and maybe add just a little bit of a pink edge to the bottom in that blue a little bit. Ah, that looks nice. I like it. All right, we'll do that to this cloud over here. All right, so play with the details and do things like that. Other than that, this painting is done. The last thing that we have to do is sign it. So if you have another thin brush, use your thin brush. I'm gonna clean this guy out a bit. I'm gonna use my white. You can use whatever color you want. I'm gonna put my initials down here at the bottom. I'm going to put 2020. And there you are. One oil painting. Go ahead and show you it from a different perspective. Just like that. Looks good, right? Good job, everybody.
I hope you had a good time. If you have any questions or if you have any feedback, show me your paintings and your photos. I'd love to see it. This is Sarah Franklin with Chemical Perspectives. Have a great day.
Hey guys, Jared Hoy here with Texas Roadhouse. Just wanting to say to all of our community of Columbus, we love you all. We've been a big part of this community for the past 20 years, and we're looking forward to the next 20 years being a part of this community. Now more than ever, I think it's so important that we show love to all members of the community because we're all in this together. So look forward to seeing you soon, and remember, love everyone.
The Heritage Fund. A word from our gold sponsor, the Heritage Fund.
Hi, I'm Tracy Souza, President and CEO of Heritage Fund, and it is our privilege at Heritage Fund to sponsor the Pride Fest. We have been working in the area of trying to promote inclusivity and welcomingness for all citizens of Bartholomew County since 2004 with our Welcoming Community Initiative. And we're so appreciative of Pride of Columbus for doing their part to help raise the issues of the LGBTQ plus community. So congratulations on what you're doing, and thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Here's Riley, a youth member of the Columbus community, speaking on the importance of pride in her community.
Hello, my name is Riley. I'm 17. I'm a non-binary lesbian and I use any pronouns. Pride Festival is super important to, not just this community, but communities everywhere. It's, there to let you know that you're not alone because there are people like yourself who are LGBTQ, but also, allies who are there to support you. Both are which super important when you live in a conservative place like Columbus. When you're young and LGBTQ and you're figuring yourself out, it is so important that you have support systems set up in place, or else, growing up, like being a teen and being LGBTQ is just gonna be so much harder. And for a lot of those LGBTQ youth, the support's not gonna come from their families and their parents. It's gonna come from their friends. And building relationships, both platonic and romantic, with fellow LGBTQ kids is really important to allow yourself to grow and to become more comfortable with your identity. And, Pride Fest is a perfect place and an opportunity to meet those people and to, know that you are not alone in this. It's really hard to be a member of the LGBTQ community in today, 50 years ago, in a conservative town, because, there are people who just hate you and they hate your identity and everything it stands for. And it's just tiring to have to deal with that all the time, constantly. But, when you have friends like yourself who you can vent to about that kind of stuff, you feel seen and that you're not alone, and it's not as tiring. You get kind of weight off your shoulders because there are people there for you who love you and want to support you. And those straight ally friends, they can support you, but especially people who can truly understand what it's like to be LGBTQ. So I think just knowing that you're not alone, physically at a Pride Festival or just in general, there are people there for you. There are people who love you, and sometimes you just gotta find those people, and because they're just gonna make your life so much easier.
Fourth Street Bar and Grill. They will be showing you how to make a couple summer cocktails to enjoy if you're 21 and up.
Hey guys, Travis here.
Stacy!
And we are with 4th Street Bar and Grill in downtown Columbus, Indiana. Today we're going to be showing you guys some of our summer signature cocktails. The first one Stacy's going to make is our peach sangria. We do like to incorporate a lot of fresh ingredients when making our summer cocktails. She's going to start off with some fresh squeezed lemon juice. She's going to add some peach puree in there as well. She's going to add about 1.5 ounces of peach schnapps, and then top it off with 4 ounces of Moscato and Sprite. And going back to the fresh ingredients, we like to garnish everything with those as well. So she's going to add some freshly cut peach slices and freshly cut lemon slices to that. Don't mind that one.
Got away from me.
Alright, there you have a peach sangria. Do keep in mind that we are constantly practicing social distancing, and all of our staff at the same time have to wear masks just to keep us safe and to keep you guys safe, most importantly. Next up, we have a bourbon berry smash. That is made with our fresh berry compote, and then our house bourbon, which is Evan Williams. She's going to put about 1.5 ounces of bourbon in there. She's also going to put some squirts of blackberry Monin, give it that little extra blackberry flavor. She's going to top it off with ginger ale. And we like to garnish this drink with some fresh mint as well. She's going to give it a little stir.
We like our stirred.
And there you have our blackberry smash, bourbon smash. Cheers, Stace.
Cheers, Travis.
Happy Pride, guys.
Jasmine O'Connor, member of the LGBTQ+ community and a person of color and an activist.
Hi, I'm Jasmine.
And I'm Kenise.
And we would like to first and foremost thank God for this opportunity to live yet another beautiful day, as well as experience God guiding our footsteps on this journey. We support Columbus Pride Festival because it's the right thing to do. We live in the very community that the event seeks to unite, and we are all for showing up as Black women in the LGBTQ+ community in an effort to encourage others who are diverse, who may not always feel or be included, and anyone who identifies as LGBTQ+ to do the very same. Yesterday, I was listening to a podcast called Girl Trek's Black History Bootcamp, hosted by Morgan Dixon and Vanessa Garrison. It was day 3 of the podcast 21-day journey of resistance, where they were leaning into the pivotal roles and moments and courageous acts of Black men and women throughout Black history. On yesterday's episode, they featured James Baldwin and talked about what an amazing friend he was. James Baldwin picked his friends up when they were down. He pitched for his friends. He advocated for his friends. He did whatever it took for his friends to be able to show up for themselves. James Baldwin was an ally. Even if you don't identify as an ally, it costs nothing to do or say something nice to someone. Pick a woman up, advocate for a Black woman, pitch for a Black man, do whatever it takes for our LGBTQ plus individuals to be able to show up as their authentic selves. Women, Black men, my LGBTQ plus people, now is the time to bring your full emotional body, all of your Blackness, all of your queerness to the front of the room and speak truth to power. Why? Because we are done asking for permission. We are done dying. And not only will we imagine and dream of bigger things, we will be and do bigger things than we could ever imagine.
Up next is some art submissions from the Columbus community to show their pride. QMix is a proud supporter of Columbus, Indiana Pride, and we are happy to be involved this year. I hope you enjoy this virtual presentation of Columbus, Indiana Pride for 2020, and we can't wait to see you next year.